Please to start that. Yeah, we do.
Here we go. Now we are.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try to share a screen for the House Bill 1007 reprint. Here we go. I have shared the reprint here with the members, and I also sent them to PSC and to Department of Labor. This is the purpose paragraph. And then as we go down through, we have the definitions of legacy of the geothermal system, post 2021 geothermal system, because we've got a new tier of tier one, a new band of tier one RECs that have to come from geothermal systems that are installed starting in 2022. That picks up starting in 2022. And go down through. We then define area median income, low and moderate income housing, require that at least 25% of each of those post 21 bands shall be installed at either single family or multifamily housing units that qualified as lower or moderate income, or at institutions, schools, hospitals that serve related populations.
Mm-hmm.
We go in and define portions of systems within geothermal systems. Require that for the larger systems, those that with at least 360,000 BTU capacity, that there be some labor and employment standards that apply. And what we added at the end of the last session was a requirement here shown in blue, that compliance with this paragraph, meaning with the family sustaining wages, healthcare, training, scheduling, workers' comp and unemployment, retirement plans, paid time off, collective bargain right, that would be compliance with that would be regulated and enforced by DOL as opposed to by the Public Service Commission. The requirement that the Public Service Commission adopt regs to do that was removed, for certifying those companies was removed.
Mm-hmm.
Now we go down through here, we have a different alternative compliance payment system for the post-21 geothermal systems. We then get into compliance fees going into a separate pot within SAFE, and then require MEA to do a comprehensive technical study. And one of the things that we added to that was to examine methods for DOL to require that the geothermal installers adhere to the labor and apprenticeship requirements for large scale projects we saw before. We then get into compliance fees going into a separate pot within SAFE. Yep. I think somebody was just broadcasting the YouTube because it was me on time delay.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions from anybody? Okay. The chair recognizes Delegate Mons.
Thanks. Thank you, Chairman. Hey, Bob, can we go back to the requirement added? There was that the blue header, and then it had.
Sure. Yeah, the relevant one is here.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Here we go.
Is that for all projects?
That is for those that with our large projects, only with a 360,000 BTU capacity. Only those would have these, I would basically say, labor requirements. And those are the requirements that would be handled under the bill as amended by the Department of Labor, since that's more within their bailiwick than it is in that of the Public Service Commission. At least that was the idea.
I have a question. What is number 8? Number 8 says the right to bargain collectively for wages and benefits. Does that require unionization?
That's not my understanding, but you might want to refer that to the bill sponsor.
Okay.
And it honors the right to collective bargaining. So collective bargaining can lead to unionization, but it's not a guarantee that it has to be a unionized company.
And they're not required to collectively bargain. They just have to have the ability to, or
Yeah.
if
So
they
you
want,
couldn't
they
have a
say,
company. So you couldn't have a company that shuts down, the process.
The company has to provide the right. The company has to provide all of these 8 items
Well,
in the bill as drafted.
thank you.
okay, Delegate Impalaria.
You're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have 2 issues. The first issue, I guess, are we robbing Peter to pay Paul here? Where are these recs coming from? Are we taking recs from someone else to make this happen? Where is that coming from, Bob?
No, these are recs that they would actually qualify as recs under the current system. It's just that these have these sort of a new market of anything installed after starting in 2022 would have a separate allocation, and they would have to be included within the tier 1 requirements for each year starting in 2022. The overall number of recs for each year, however, doesn't change. So this is essentially a new source with a different ACP.
Okay. Now, and a lot that we're discussing in this bill is how this is going to help minorities and how it's going to help people of low income and how it's going to help unions. But I don't see anywhere where there's a set aside for minority owned businesses. So, I think if we're going to do this, and the real goal is to be helping minorities out and training minorities and doing that, there should be a 25% set aside for minority owned businesses, not just businesses that hire minorities, but actual minority owned businesses. And the reason I say that is because this is an industry where there's very few minorities involved in it. And by doing this, we would be creating opportunities for helping minorities expand into this field, because I can't imagine there's a lot of well drillers out there. I'm sure there are some, but that are minority owned businesses. And most of these heat and air conditioning companies are not minority owned businesses. So I would like to see some type of amendment in here that 25% of this is set aside for minority owned businesses. And I'd like to hear what others think about that.
If I may, Delegate, we considered that during the debate on CJ, you remember a couple of years ago. The problem with putting in a specific percentage number for such a set aside is that under federal, in fact, US Supreme Court precedent, you actually need to show a history of discrimination in that industry, not simply speculation that it may occur, in order to support a particular numerical set aside. That's why even in the CJ, we ended up with aspirational goals rather than hard numbers. But that's on the legal side. It's not. I don't. In terms of the policy, that's not what I'm commenting on. Just the law.
Well, I do remember that we had.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Delegate. All righty. Okay. The delegate recognizes the Delegate Charkoudian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, just to follow up on Council's comment, because I had looked into this briefly and recalled the CJA conversation, and so instead in CJA, if I remember correctly, and Council, you can let me know, we have the funds in the sorry, I can never remember. It's a long acronym and I apologize. I can't think of it, but
Ms. Bidfa.
Ms. BIDFA, and that are funds that are eligible for folks in the clean energy industry. And so it would support, that was kind of how we came up with a way to support minority owned businesses. But Delegate Impleria, if you'd like, the other thing that we could put in relatively easily into this bill right now is that the study that that we have in place, we could put into there, we could add to the questions that the study is going to answer. How can we grow minority-owned businesses in this field? If you want to make sure we don't kind of miss this opportunity to raise that as an issue, even though, constitutionally, it looks like we can't put it in as a carve out.
Well, I'm not big on studies, and it just kicks the can down the road, which I'm not in favor of. This is and I understand what Bob is saying, that, historically, there probably isn't discrimination because historically this is new. Geothermal is new, but well drilling is not new, and heating and air conditioning is not new. And there isn't a lot of minorities who are in this business. So I see these, and this program is totally shutting them out. And while we're saying on one hand, we want to make sure it gets into minority households, on the other hand, I think that we seriously need to do something right now with this bill to some way amend it that a percentage of this business goes to minority owned business to help them expand, to help that grow. In rural areas, I doubt you have too many well drillers that are minority owned. And when it comes to putting these big chillers and stuff in on these school projects, I doubt that you have very many. And I don't think it's because of discrimination. It's the way it is. And if we have the opportunity with this bill, and it's supposed to be helping minorities, let's help minorities on both ends. Let's not just help them on one end. Let's help them if we can. So I would support that. I would support that a percentage of this. I'm not sure how we do it, but the opportunity is before us now, and I would like to see that happen now. And I'd like to hear what other people think about it.
Okay, so thank you, Delegate. The chair recognizes Delegate Queen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wasn't going to make this comment, but now that Delegate Impelerio made that comment, I am familiar with the issues we have with putting quotas in for minority business set aside. So we've tried that, Delegate Impelerio, on a lot of the bills. But I certainly would put in an amendment that would, what we can do to address that. It could be part of the study if we could put something in that doesn't have quota language in it, such that it would, some incentive or something to allow for more minority business to be part of that. I certainly will work with the sponsor to craft that. So that would be an amendment I would definitely like to offer. But my original hand was raised because of something I mentioned yesterday related to the implementation dates around this. So Bob, my understanding that the first time PSC will start taking applications for this would be in January 2023, but I don't see that specifically laid out in the bill. So how is that derived?
Actually, I don't understand that, because if you have to be able to take systems that are installed as of January 1 of 2022, presumably the PSC would have
2022. I'm sorry. They want to move it to 2023. Okay, so where is that outline? I'm sorry.
Well, it's simply that in the definition of a post-2021 geothermal system, which is the new band, and the fact that you have a band within tier 1 starting, I'm showing here in 2022, you're starting with, pardon me, at least 0.15% of the tier 1 RECs have to be from post-2021 geothermal systems.
Sure.
So they would have to have the system in place for the compliance year 2022, which is a calendar year.
Gotcha.
So presumably people could knock on their doors as of January 2nd, 2022, and say, we've got this going.
Okay,
We're putting it in
gotcha.
service.
So based on some conversations I've had with PSC, even labor and some other folks, how would I be able to put in a 6-month delay for this so that the questions people are trying to resolve and their implementation plans can, I don't know if I believe a year is needed, but maybe 6 months. So such that if we do need to tweak anything, we will be back in session before that time started. How could I write an amendment to do something like that?
Speculating on your intent, I would have to say that I would note, first of all, that the bands for the requirements here are done on a calendar year basis. So you would have to say specifically that they would only start accepting applications. We didn't need a separate provision saying they would only start accepting applications after June 30, 2022. Presumably you would still have a percentage that have to come in for the last half of the year that would total 0.15%. But that would administratively take some of the heat off of, maybe not enough, but it would take at least some of the heat off of the commission in terms of what do they do starting January 1.
Okay. All right.
That's how you would do that.
Okay, thank you. I'll listen and maybe may want to offer that amendment. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Delegate Queen. So that question is from a conversation you had with DOL because of what the problem they are experiencing with unemployment and the time constraints there.
Correct. DOL would like to have some breathing room as well. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I believe we have representatives from both agencies in on the call, by the way.
Okay. Thanks. All right. The chair recognizes the vice chair. Dumais.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In response to Delegate Impelario's questions, number one, I believe CJIS, the Clean Energy Jobs Act, already covers the minority piece, and the funds would be, available for that. I think we need to, and if I'm happy with the study language, if you wanted to add that, but this is really sort of. It's been around a while and it's pretty far afield. So I just think we need to, talk through what's important. We can't do the quotas. The law doesn't allow us to. So let's try and, put the language in to add it to the study. Fine. But actually, I think the sponsor would like to, I think she might be next, but anyway, when she gets there, she can talk to Delegate Queen's question. To sort of get to that solution.
Delegate Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Committee. I'm gonna be all for that language, whatever language we can have in terms of minority participation. I know a number of small minority HVAC companies that are hit by this, so. And I'm not the biggest fan of, we've always assumed that they would come in and find our goals, MBE goals, like unconstitutional, but they still haven't been proven that way yet. And as much as they try to challenge them, they still are standing and we're still allowed to do it. So I kind of got encouraged when I heard the language about a set aside for that. So I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I'm voting against something that's going to try to do something like that. And in terms of the study, I'm kind of like, let's study. We know what the study is going to say. We use common sense. I'm not for the study language. But my other question is this. I think I heard Delegate Charkoudian mention about funds available from Ms. Bitfa. And coming from my old committee, very sensitive to that Ms. Bitfa money and how much money is in there and how much can get allocated around, because Ms. Bitfa money can disappear quickly with the stroke of a pen over in the Senate. I've seen it happen before. So could you kind of clarify what portion of the Ms. Bitfa funding you were saying was going to be available, and how that came into play?
Mr. Chair, can I answer?
I'm sorry, can I just break in? Mark Fisher is in the waiting room trying to get in.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Delegate Charkoudian.
Yeah, Delegate Walker, I don't have Ms. Bidfa information sort of off the top of my head. What I was referencing is that we had tried when we were working on the Clean Energy Jobs Act, we had discussed the possibility of doing this carve out idea. The Attorney General had said that it couldn't be done. And then this is sort of to Bob's earlier points. And so instead, and I'd have to pull the bill because I don't know it off the top of my head, but instead what was done was sort of money was set aside in Ms. Vidfa specifically for minority owned businesses in the clean energy realm. And so what I was saying was that same money would be available to grow the minority owned businesses in geothermal arena. And then I was also suggesting that we add to this, there's a pretty comprehensive study in this bill. And so that we would add to it finding ways to fund and continue to support minority owned businesses, specifically in geothermal. Right now, it's more general in our statute to clean energy, that it would be specific to geothermal.
I mean, would you agree with what Delegate implemented in the terms of a study? I mean, the study, I would trust that you would have better ideas and the study would come up with on how you get more minority participation, because that's the field you're really in and passionate about. What's a study doing? That's kind of kicking the can down the road. We got a bill here in front of us that I'd like to see us try to do. And I know your heart's in the right place, and I would trust you to come up with some tighter language that would ensure minorities. Well, that's all I'm saying.
Can I answer, Mr. Chair?
Go right ahead.
Yeah. I guess the thing is, on the issue of tight language, it took me a very long time to put this bill together. So I don't think that I can, off the top of my head, think about how it is that one grows minority owned businesses, how one writes that into statute. Into a particular statute. I think that there's a lot of people who know a whole lot more about it than I do. So as committed as I am, to your point, to doing it, I'm not sure that I would know how to write this quickly into this. And I would just say that this bill does leave a lot of questions open. And the study does sort of point to the fact that we'll come back and work, revisit this. And, I'd like to work with you and other people who have more expertise to see if they're, what that concrete language would look like.
Delegate Branch?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of agree with Delegate Walker. I've seen bills before where you can encourage MBE participation. You don't have to have a percentage or carve out, but in most cases, when you have these bills pass and construction and work begins, oftentimes you'll find that MBEs are not included, and it becomes primarily an all-white type of development in terms of funding that's being used and monies that's being used to build or to create whatever. So I've seen MBE language without quotas, and you can write it that way. And I don't agree with the study. I think you're kicking the can down the road. We're trying to be, and then I'm looking at the bill. I like the bill. I think it's going to bring jobs, but at the same time, if you're going to be inclusive, let's be inclusive. But I do agree with Delegate Walker.
Well, then let's find the language and put it.
Wait a minute.
Nobody disagrees.
Vice Chair, please.
Let me
hold on.
Say,
Delegate Branch, hold on. Delegate Branch, hold on a second, please.
I stopped.
Madam Vice Chair, please. All right.
I stopped.
Delegate Branch, go ahead and finish.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've seen that before. So I would like to see the MBE language, if we can do that. And I don't know, as long as it's saying something about MBE participation, I don't think that's a hard thing to do. And you're kicking the can down the road by throwing it in a study. We all know that. Nobody, I've been here too long to know that that's not going to happen. So the other thing that I want to mention is the Department of Labor. I had a conversation with them today. I agree with Delegate Queen Delegate Queen is right. They're having a little trouble with the implementation stage and would like to know if they could get just a little more time added. They having issues with the 1 through 8. They said they can do a few of them, but they can't implement all that just right away. Not that they can't do it, but they said that they needed a little more time to be able to wrap their arms around that. So as like Delegate Queen said, if we can just stretch it just a little bit, give them a little bit more time in the bill, that would be promising.
Thank you, Delegate Batch. And colleagues, may I remind you that we're being live streamed. Yeah. So if you want to say something, if you want to respond, please raise your hand and I will definitely recognize you. Thank you.
Are they down upstairs?
Yes. If you're not talking, please mute. Thanks. All right, Delegate Impalaria.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to tell you the reason that I brought this up, because there's no minority businesses that are going to build windmills. And if you want local minorities within our state to have an opportunity, this is a great bill for this, because you know what? A minority afford to pull the money together to go out and buy that well drilling equipment. A minority can have a heating and HVAC company that they might say, you know, you're just a little bit too small. But with this set aside in there, it allows them to get a little bit bigger, that they can make that step, they can go forward, and they can compete. So that's why I brought this up, because a lot of the stuff we do, like bridges and roads, they're just so big that when you're saying we're going to put a minority in there, that's not realistic. The real small business minority guy, like Delegate Brooks, like you are in the accounting business, that real guy has an opportunity to step into this space because it's not so big that he can't reach it. And if he's held out from it, he can't reach it. But if we put something, and I don't know what the wording is, I don't want to break federal law, that he can reach it, you know, I think that there's a $2 million contract and the guy's got a business that's worth $500,000. He can probably get the additional funding to make this happen for him. But he's not building a windmill. He is not going to build a windmill. So in the energy field, I see this as a niche, a way in the door for that minority business. That's all I have to say.
Okay. All right, Delegate Charkoudian.
On the opposite side.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fully supportive of everything that everybody's saying about minority-owned businesses. I just don't know, and if someone would be willing to propose language in the context of
Potentially voting.
someone's not muted. I'm not sure who that is, but so in the context of
hold on a second. If you're not talking, please.
Sorry.
Come on, honey badger.
In the context of RECs, the only place I've seen that explored was in CEJA. And the determination was you couldn't in RECs do a carve out. I've certainly seen procurement preferences for public buildings or public projects. And I fully support procurement preferences for public projects. I just don't know, I'm fully willing to put something in here. I just don't know what one puts into a REC program. I mean, just when we look at how all the RECs work, that would be this way to, I mean, I'm trying to be honest about putting something in that's actually meaningful. And we haven't seen that policy. So if someone would suggest a specific, some language that we could actually put in there, that's not the carve out that was referenced and that we explored in CEJA and we're told we couldn't do, but some language that, you know, would hold up to constitutional muster, I'm totally fine with that. So I don't know if folks want to be thinking about that, see if it seems like there's interest on the committee, and maybe in the next few minutes we could figure out what that language is. The second thing I wanted to respond to was Delegate Queen's suggestion and Delegate Branch's suggestion of delaying it by 6 months. Certainly not my preference, but I think we can make that work. So if that's what allows DOL to have time to do their pieces. And I know it's not everything that Public Service Commission has asked for, but I think it does give them more time as well. And so I think that that's reasonable. So I would, certainly see that as a, friendly addition to this. If that's what a delegate branch or Queen are proposing, or I'll propose it myself if folks think that takes care of the concerns.
All right, the chair recognizes the delegate branch.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with that. And I would certainly, if Bob can come up with something, do you think you can do that, Bob?
Yes, sir. If I may, yeah, go ahead.
And if that's something we could offer to the full committee, because I know we want to move to get this bill out of here today. So however that works, but I feel strongly about Rick's amendment and the time. So if we can work those two in as well, I'm good to go.
Okay, if I may make a couple of comments, I think maybe help wrap this up for at least the discussion we've had so far. 6-month delay I can do in terms of accepting applications. And I can also, that will also mean that DLL wouldn't have anything to look at until at least July 1st of 2022. As far as MBE participation, we have right here in the bill as drafted, as part of career advancement training installation company provides, companies shall ensure a minimum of 10% are enrolled in an apprenticeship program approved by and registered with the state or the feds. That actually is what currently brings in the apprenticeship and training that is supported by CEJA from a couple of years ago. I could do something similar to ask and I'll base it on the CEJA language, ask the companies to do best efforts to employ small minority business, women-owned, veterans-owned enterprises, just as we did with CEJA, and to support workers from those backgrounds as well. As I say, based on what you had in CEJA, which did barely pass constitutional muster, we had a whole bunch of conversations with the AG's office just before Sunny Day on that bill, I recall very well, as Speaker Bush was dying. Yeah. So I can do that here. That would also be something that would be, just so that Mr. Fulgenetti is aware, that is something that would also be under the ambit of the DOL as opposed to the PSC. Since they're already dealing with apprenticeship programs on the same side of things between them and Commerce. The Ms. Bidfa money we talked about earlier is more for venture capital. The CEJA money actually came out of CEF to go into the apprenticeship and training programs that are in DOL.
Okay.
Or overseen by DOL.
Okay. Okay. All right. The chair recognizes Rick Benetti.
Who's muted.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think labor, I think, would be fine with a 6-month delay if we can build it into the bill. And I do want to just point out with the MBE discussion that in terms of our membership in the state of Maryland, roughly 4,500 laborers in the state of Maryland, the overwhelming majority of those workers are minorities. So I think it's really important to focus on MBE and helping do what the state can to help those businesses get off the ground, but the state cannot forget about the workers who aren't going to be business owners, that are still able through legislation like this to earn a middle-class wage and provide a middle-class lifestyle for their families. They may not be business owners, but they are minority construction workers. So I just we tend to sort of glaze over the worker in all of this. But I just wanted to make that point. And also that our folks, our union works with a whole lot of MBEs as well. So, in terms of if I could just go on two more seconds, Mr. Chair, in terms of the DOL side of this, which we think that amendment makes the most sense. This is what they already do, as Mr. Smith pointed out, in terms of the apprenticeship stuff. And with regard to the wage stuff, certainly at first anyway, probably most of these large scale projects are going to be public projects, schools or whatever. And all of that stuff is already going to be built into the prevailing wage. So DOL is already going to be tracking all of these labor, quote unquote, labor standards that are in this bill, even at first on that public stuff. And then we have to remember the language here is pretty vague anyway. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's not like we have got built-in wage floors that DOL is going to have to be going out there on geothermal work to enforce. I just wanted to point that out.
All right, thanks. Delegate Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a different comment than when Mr. Benetti spoke. It had me think of something different. I'm like, man, I represent a district in a county where we supply that workforce. We have large numbers in Prince George County that supply that workforce, and we're talking about a brand new field that's new to those of us in Prince George's County for the most part. We want minority participation at the highest level, not minority workers. I think that's what the whole talk was about, not minority workers, minority participation, minority ownership in some of these things, minorities training other minorities in this field. I know would be a perfect world which we all are trying to get to. So I can't understand how we can take contracts and say, you know what, if it's a certain dollar amount, we're going to force you to do X, Y, and Z. But if we're trying to say we want to do a certain racial breakdown, oh, we can't force you to do that. You can't do that. If we want to break it up by class. So I think I'm for this. I like this stuff here, but we can do better. Let's not kick the can down the road. The labor part, I'm all for that. But Bob, couldn't we also, I know when we passed the gaming in the state of Maryland, we earmarked a set aside, like 1.5% of the money in the whole state goes to Ms. Bitful, right? So why are we having a hard time trying to say certain percentages here is going towards Ms. Bitful for the purpose of an investment in minority participation in this field, geothermal? I
think actually under CEJA, they'd be able to invest in those businesses right now, to be honest with you.
I got you. I don't know CEJA, so I'm still new to that. So I got to catch up with you on that. But is there an earmark? Well, can we put language in this bill that says money from CEJA that comes is going towards this amount? Why are we not doing that? What's the hang up on that? And don't let me hold up the rest of the committee trying to teach me.
You're already taking relatively limited funds that are divided up amongst 3 fiscal years and trying to figure out where they go. Yep. And as I say, these industries would certainly qualify as the clean energy industries that are already able to obtain support through DOL and through Ms. Bidfa under CEJA.
Limited Ms. Bidfa funds too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Delegate Howard.
Well, I was going to offer an amendment on something completely different. I saw Delegate Queen's hand go up, and I think there's still some questions going on about the minority participation, which I agree with 100%, especially from a business owner standpoint, minority business owner participation. And Delegate Queen, if I could, Mr. Chair, Delegate Queen, if you still have questions in that vein, before I move on, I'd like it if you could ask your questions. If not, I'll ask mine.
Mr. Chair, can I, oh, sorry.
Okay, Delegate Queen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So no, my question basically was sort of to ditto what Delegate Walker had said.
Excuse me, folks. Bob?
Yes.
The chair would like your meeting to end so we can do the subcommittee chairs meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
So and I'll make it quick, just to say, we're not talking about, jobs and just income. We're talking about wealth creation, and wealth creation is about business ownership. So as I kind of alluded to, we should have some language we can come up with. We can work with Delegate Branch, Walker, whoever, to get that language in. But I think we should be able to have some language that doesn't talk about quotas, but does provide some opportunities for minority businesses. That was all.
All right.
I have a specific
Okay.
suggestion if that's possible, but.
All right, well, we're gonna have to postpone this again because the chair wants that subcommittee, that committee meeting to take place. So Bob, could we, what we could do, we could postpone this and come back again on tomorrow?
It's gonna have to, yep.
Yeah, all right. So let's do that. We'll have to end this today and
Yep.
tomorrow and finish this up.
I'll check with council to find out when we actually have time to meet tomorrow. We don't have committee
Okay.
hearings, so
Right.
it's a matter of when
Okay.
what your floor
And
schedule
perhaps
is.
we can get those amendments that we're discussing here. We'll get that as well. Okay. All right.
Motion-
So
motion to
council
adjourn.
send everybody out an email to let you know what time tomorrow.
Yep.
We'll finish this up. Okay. All right.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion,
No.
yes. Okay. Okay. So we're now adjourned. All right.
Thank you.
Sure.